Some storms roar not to break us, but to awaken the fire we forgot we carried. When a voice from far away warns of heavy burdens, when a leader threatens to weigh our goods with gold and our dreams with chains, we must remember the worth of a nation is not measured by tariffs, but by the unshakable spine of its people. When others speak loud in halls of authority, it is easy to feel their voices pressing against the walls of your resolve. Their tone may be sharp, their words heavy with intent, but strength is not always found in meeting volume with volume. There is a deeper power in the stillness of knowing who you are. Silence, when born from wisdom, carries the weight of mountains. It is not the silence of surrender, but the silence that lets the other voice echo into the emptiness until it fades. While your spirit stands untouched in the theater of global power, there will always be those who attempt to cast you as the smaller role. They will speak as though their reach stretches across oceans and their laws govern not just their land but yours. Yet history is filled with stories of those who refuse to be defined by someone else's proclamation. There is a difference between bending and listening, between yielding and choosing your moment. When you stand tall, you do not close your ears to the sound around you. You hear it, you weigh it, and then you decide. The proud walk is not a march of arrogance, but the stride of one who knows their ground is their own. Power tries to measure itself in the size of armies, the reach of trade, and the weight of economic influence. But the truest measure of a people's strength is their refusal to be reduced to fear. Standing tall does not mean you ignore the winds that blow against you. It means you anchor your feet in the soil of your truth. You may sway, but you will not fall. The pressure from the outside may push you to act in haste, to compromise what should never be compromised. This is when your resolve must be steady, for the world often mistakes urgency for authority, and noise for correctness. Every great leader, every enduring nation, has been tested by the hands of those who sought to control them through intimidation. The threat may come dressed as policy, it may be wrapped in the language of fairness or necessity, but at its core it is still a push to make you bow. And yet, dignity is not a garment you take off when challenged. It is the skin you live in. Those who stand tall understand that no trade deal, no tariff, no warning can strip away the honor of holding firm to what is rightfully yours. Sometimes standing tall is not about confrontation at all. It is about presence. A tree does not argue with the wind. It simply exists in its fullness, reminding the world that strength can be rooted and unshaken even in storms. The deeper the roots, the higher the branches can reach. When a nation or a person understands the depth of their roots, their culture, their history, their unbreakable values, no external force can redefine them. There will be those who believe that fear is a currency, that if they speak loudly enough, others will shrink in size. But fear only has the power you give it. To stand tall in the face of power is to reclaim the narrative, to let the world know you are not a pawn to be moved by the will of another, but a force with your own design. And when you stand in that way, firm, unshaken, eyes level with those who would tower over you, you remind not only them but yourself that the tallest posture is born from an unbroken spirit. A tariff is a number written in ink, a calculation of commerce that tries to place a price tag on the movement of goods. Yet numbers, no matter how high or low, cannot capture the worth of a people. Our value is not determined by percentages printed in documents or declared from podiums. True worth is not measured in coins, but in the strength of our will, the depth of our knowledge, and the creativity of our minds. We are more than what we trade. We are the architects of our own destiny, the hands that shape the raw into the refined, the voices that tell stories the world cannot ignore. When a threat comes that seeks to limit us with figures and penalties, it is tempting to see ourselves through that narrow lens, to think that the size of the tariff defines the size of the challenge. But challenges are only as big as the space we give them in our hearts. The greatness of a people is in what they build despite obstacles, and how they turn barriers into stepping stones. A number may raise the cost of a product, but it cannot raise the cost of imagination. The world's most enduring civilizations thrived, not because they avoided hardship, but because they learned to create in the midst of it. They found ways to turn the weight of oppression into the forge of innovation. When you know your worth, you refuse to be reduced to a figure in someone else's accounting book. You begin to see that the richness of your culture, the skill of your workers, and the resilience of your economy are currencies stronger than any imposed measure. Knowing your worth means holding fast to the truth that your contribution to the world is unique. Others may try to undervalue your labor, your resources, your products, but their evaluation is not your reality. A diamond remains a diamond whether it is appraised at a high price or dismissed by a blind eye. In the same way, the spirit of a nation remains priceless regardless of external judgment. His truth is not only about pride, it is about survival. A people who forget their worth are easily swayed, quickly willing to trade away their strength for short-term relief. But a people who remember who they are will endure storms with patience, knowing that the clouds will pass, but their foundation remains. That self-awareness allows you to engage in negotiations not as a beggar seeking favor, but as an equal partner demanding respect. To know your worth beyond numbers is also to understand that influence is not solely held by those with wealth or political reach. Influence belongs to those who can inspire, to those who can produce what others cannot, to those whose cultural and intellectual wealth enriches the world in ways money cannot replicate. Your worth is the light you carry into the marketplace, the ingenuity you bring to every challenge, and the dignity with which you stand in the face of pressure. Numbers will change, they will rise, they will fall, but worth, once truly known, does not shift with the seasons. It stands firm, as constant as the sun that rises without asking permission. And when you understand that your value is greater than any tariff, any policy, any threat, you walk into the world unafraid, knowing that the price of your spirit can never be calculated. Let the world speak in its endless debates, its clashing voices over trade, policies, and the currency of power. Let them argue in conference halls and draft their documents in the language of profit and loss. You, my people, must not be distracted from the work that gives life to your future. The noise of others is only as loud as the attention you give it. While they raise their voices, you must raise your efforts. While they count tariffs, you must count the seeds you plant, for those seeds will one day feed not only you but generations to come. Rising above the noise is not about ignoring reality. It is about choosing where to place your energy. The world will always have storms of words and waves of opinion, but a builder knows that walls do not rise from argument. They rise from hands that keep laying brick upon brick, even as the wind howls. The craftsman knows that beauty is not shaped by shouting, but by the steady patience of the chisel. In the same way, the destiny of a people is not shaped by how loudly they protest, but by how persistently they create. It is easy to be drawn into the pull of every announcement, every headline, every warning. Yet those who achieve greatness are those who keep their eyes fixed on the work before them, refusing to pause for every echo of dissent. Distraction is one of the most dangerous weapons in the arsenal of those who seek to weaken you. If they can keep you chasing their words, they can slow your progress. But when you remain steady, when you keep moving forward in your vision, their noise becomes nothing more than distant thunder, loud, but unable to touch you. Every day, innovation blooms in the soil of persistence. The farmer knows that the harvest will not come faster by watching the clouds, but by tending the earth. The entrepreneur knows that success is not born in the boardroom arguments of others, but in the quiet hours when ideas are refined and brought to life. The artist knows that inspiration is drowned when attention is given to the chaos instead of the canvas. And so, you too must learn to protect your focus as if it were gold, because it is the foundation upon which progress is built. Rising above the noise also means holding fast to a higher vision. The world may try to pull you into the mud of petty disputes, but you have the choice to stand in the clear air of purpose. To rise above is to refuse to meet smallness with smallness, to resist the urge to answer insult with insult, and instead to let your achievements be the loudest reply. A tree does not argue with the axe. It simply keeps reaching for the sky until it stands so tall the axe grows weary. Let them speak their terms and issue their demands. Let them attempt to define the boundaries of your ambition. The truth is, the limits they place exist only if you accept them. When you rise above the noise, you take back the power to define yourself. You remind the world that while they may control their voices, only you control your hands, your mind, and your future. And in the end, the loudest sound in the room will not be their warning. It will be the quiet, unstoppable rhythm of your progress. When the world presses against you with demands and threats, it is natural to feel the weight of the moment pulling you toward compromise. But there are lines that should never be crossed, principles that must never be traded for temporary peace. Strength is not in the willingness to avoid conflict at any cost. It is in the courage to stand for what must remain unshaken. Meeting pressure with strength does not mean being reckless, nor does it mean rejecting dialogue. It means holding your ground with a calm that comes from knowing your position is just, your vision is clear, and your dignity is non-negotiable. There will always be those who believe they can bend your will through fear. They will raise the stakes, magnify the consequences, and paint surrender as the most reasonable path. But reason without integrity is a hollow victory. What good is gaining favorable terms if in the process you lose the respect of your people or the sovereignty of your choices? The test of true leadership, whether of a nation or an individual, lies in resisting the temptation to give away what should be defended. History is filled with moments where the path of least resistance promised relief, but delivered regret. Those who chose to yield found that once you give away what is rightfully yours, the demands never end. Those who chose to stand found that even if the storm raged longer, they emerged with their honor intact, and their position stronger. Respect is not given freely, it is earned, and it is often earned in moments when you refuse to be pushed into submission. Strength in the face of pressure is not about shouting the loudest or making the boldest threat. It is about moving with deliberate, unshakable purpose. It is about sending a message without always needing words. That you are not easily swayed, that you will negotiate from a place of equality, and that you will not trade the long-term welfare of your people for short-term convenience. Just as steel is tempered by fire, so too is character forged in the heat of adversity. It is important to remember that yielding for the sake of avoiding tension often creates a deeper, more dangerous tension within yourself. A conscience unsettled will weigh heavier than any tariff or external burden. There is a certain peace in knowing you did not betray the trust placed in you, that you chose to protect the legacy handed down by those before you. This peace becomes a shield against doubt, a quiet assurance that you met the challenge with integrity. The world respects those who stand with dignity more than those who bow for comfort. Even those who oppose you will recognize the strength it takes to remain steadfast. Your allies will draw courage from your example, and your people will walk taller knowing they are led by someone unwilling to diminish their value. Strength in such moments becomes contagious. It inspires not only the present generation but those yet to come. When you answer with strength, you also shape the narrative of your own story. You refuse to let others write it for you. And though the pressure may be intense, the reward is far greater. The knowledge that you remain true to yourself and to those who depend on you. In the face of such resolve, even the greatest threats lose their power, for they cannot sway the heart that has chosen to stand. Every threat that arrives at your doorstep is a choice in disguise. The choice to see it as a wall or as a challenge to climb. Warnings may come dressed in the language of dominance, laced with numbers and consequences meant to unsettle your resolve. But you have the power to transform them into the very fuel that drives you forward. Threats, no matter how sharp their edges, are only as strong as the fear you allow them to plant within you. When you refuse to let fear take root, the warning becomes nothing more than a signal to rise. Turning threats into thunder is the art of responding not with retreat but with creation. It is taking the pressure of the moment and letting it pound like a drumbeat in your chest, each beat calling you to act with purpose and vision. If the path you once walked is suddenly blocked, you do not stop. You forge a new road. If the door is closed, you craft your own key, for the one who builds their own entrance cannot be shut out. Adversity has a strange way of sharpening innovation. Many of the world's greatest achievements were born not in times of ease, but in moments when necessity demanded that imagination stretch beyond the familiar. Threats can be a mirror, showing you where your vulnerabilities lie. But they can also be a map, pointing toward the areas where growth is needed. Instead of shrinking back when challenged, lean into the opportunity to strengthen the very places your opponents hope to weaken. Let their attempt to limit you spark the drive to expand your skills, your industries, your influence. A threat intended to slow you can, if embraced with determination, become the push that accelerates your progress. There is a certain defiance in answering with action. Words can be twisted, negotiations can stall, but tangible progress speaks for itself. Building when others expect you to break confuses those who thought their pressure would crush you. It shifts the balance of power, reminding both sides that your determination is not a fleeting flame, but a steady fire. The louder the threat, the more striking the silence of your focus becomes, until the results of your work roar louder than any warning. Threats are often meant to isolate, to make you feel as though you are alone and vulnerable. But thunder does not sound alone, it travels through the sky, reaching far beyond the point where it began. In the same way, your response can echo across borders, inspiring allies and unsettling those who underestimated you. When you answer with resilience, your example can galvanize others to find their own strength, creating a ripple effect far greater than the original threat. To turn threats into thunder is to refuse the role of the victim and take on the mantle of the creator. You are not simply reacting, you are redefining the terms of the challenge. You are sending a message that adversity does not silence you, it amplifies you. The hands that others thought would be tied are instead free to build, to innovate, to produce outcomes that speak with the power of a storm. And when the thunder of your progress rolls across the landscape, those who once sought to diminish you will hear it, and know their warning did not weaken you. It awakened you.